countless older Americans who enrich and strengthen our community. And whereas the City of Tarpon Springs is committed to engage in supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers. And whereas we acknowledge the importance of taking part in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being, no matter your age. And whereas the City of Tarpon Springs can enrich the lives of individuals of every age by promoting home and community-based service and supporting independent living, involve older Americans in the community planning events and other activities, and provide opportunities for older adults to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. And now, therefore, I, Chris Alajuzes, by virtue of the authority vesting in me, as the mayor of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2018 as the Older American Month. And I'd like to invite the Area Agency on Aging Executive Director Anne Marie Winter to receive the proclamation. And thank you for coming. And I want to thank the agency for the services they provide for the city. Thank you. If you want to say a few words, you're welcome to it. Thank you.
Okay, there's a reason I was in extemporaneous speaking club in high school. So I just want to thank you very much for this great honor. National Senior Month, Older Americans Month is celebrated throughout the country in the month of May. And last year, the Area Agency on Aging provided funding to serve 55,000 seniors in Pinellas and Pasco counties with home and community-based services. So we look forward to continuing our partnership with the City of Tarpon Springs and your new initiative for the Senior Center Information and Referral Service, which you've started. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Are there any commission comments on this item? Any public comments on this item? I hear none. We are now going to the item number 2, which is the National Arbor Day. Commissioner Carr.
Thank you. Proclamation of City Tarpon Springs, Florida. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and beautify our community. And whereas trees in our city increase property values and enhance economic vitality of business areas and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Commissioner Jacob Carr, by the virtue authority vested in the Mayor of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 27th, 2018, the last Friday of April, be recognized by the City of Tarpon Springs in support of National Arbor Day. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And this will be mailed.
Thank you. Are there any commission comments? Any public comments on this item? Hear none. We go to item number 2, which is the National Day of Prayer. Vice Mayor Panther.
Thank you. City of Tarpon Springs, whereas we come together on our National Day of Prayer as one nation to show gratitude for our many blessings, discover peace, and to give thanks. And whereas every day women and men use the wisdom gained from humble prayer to speak kindness and to make our world a better place. And whereas through prayer we often gain the insight to learn from our mistakes, the motivation to always be better, and the courage to stand up for what is right even when it is not popular. Whereas on this day, may our faiths enable us to sow the seeds of progress in our ever-changing world. Whereas it is fitting and proper to give thanks by observing a day of prayer in the city of Tarpon Springs, while recognizing the need for strengthening religious and moral values in our city, state, and nation. Now, therefore, I, Vice Mayor David Banther, by virtue of the authority vested in the Mayor of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 3rd, 2018 as National Day of Prayer. So we accept it by Reverend Tummel.
Thank you. Do you want to say something about just a little bit? Okay, sure.
I am honored to accept this proclamation and look forward to observing this year's National Day of Prayer, my first in Tarpon Springs. The theme this year is unity, based on Ephesians 4:3, which challenges us to mobilize public prayer, making every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. It is said that every great movement begins with prayer, and so I truly look forward to the movement that this time of prayer brings about this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any commission comments? Hear none. Are there any public comments on this item? Hear none. Thank you. And we are now going to the item number 4, which is a Drinking Water Week. And I will read this proclamation. City of Tarpon Springs, Florida proclamation, whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support our economy and the quality of life we enjoy, and whereas any measure of successful society, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which the future generation depend. And whereas each citizen of our city is called upon to help protect our source water from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in the local water issue by getting to know their water. Now, therefore, I, Chris Alajuzes, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 6th through May 12, 2018 as Drinking Water Week. And Mr. Robinson, the Project Administration Director, will accept this. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Are there any commissioner comments? Here none. Are there any public comments on this item? Here none. We have one more presentation. Civility Month, and Commissioner Slibber is going to read that.
City of Tarpon Springs, Florida proclamation. Whereas the open exchange of public discourse is essential to the democratic system of government, and whereas restoring civility and showing respect by demonstrating small gestures of kindness go a long way towards reestablishing trust, forging goodwill, and advancing relationships in our fast-paced society. And whereas a month of civility will heighten awareness of appropriate conduct and civilized business and social behavior in our daily lives. And whereas a month of civility will bring respect and consideration to the forefront, heighten awareness that treating others with unexpected kindness and respect every day is contagious and the key to real-time challenges with confront society as a whole, especially today. And whereas civility can assist in reaching consensus on diverse issues and allow for mutually respectful ongoing relationships. Now, therefore, I, Commissioner Reyes Sieber, by virtue of the authority vested in the Mayor of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2018 as Civility Month. This will be mailed.
Okay. Do we have any commission comments? Sure, go ahead.
I appreciate this proclamation because I think in this day and age, especially, it's important that we teach our children civility, respect, and kindness. So I think it's very important that we remember these things. Thank you.
Are there any public comments on this item? Here none. Thank you. We are now going to the item number 6, which is the fiscal year 2017 external audit, Moore, Stevens, and Lovelace.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Ron Herring, Finance Director. Tonight we have the presentation of the city's external audit. State Statute 21839 requires local governments have an annual financial audit performed by an independent certified public accountant within 9 months of the end of the fiscal year. The city audits can be found on the city's website under the Finance Department. The firm of Moore, Stevens, Lovelace was retained by the city to perform this audit. Moore, Stevens, Lovelace is a highly regarded firm in the state in performing local government audits. And tonight we have Jeff Young, Audit Manager with Moore, Stevens, Lovelace, to present the city's audit for fiscal year 2017.
Good evening. First of all, I'd just like to thank the Commission for allowing us to serve you as your external auditors, and also I'd like to thank Ron and his staff for all his hard work. A lot of work goes into completing a successful audit and also a high-quality CAFR, which you have. Okay, first, you've all should have received a required communication letter. Government auditing standards require we communicate certain things to governance, and this letter covers that. I'll just briefly kind of mention what it covers, and I won't go too much into detail, but it really covers our responsibilities under the audit. It also details what we consider significant estimates and significant disclosures in your financial statements. Happy to report we had no difficulties encountered during the audit. No corrected misstatements. We did have one misstatement that management elected not to record, which is on the last page of this report. It was really just a timing issue and didn't affect the financial statements. No disagreements with management, and no other findings or issues. Now going on to our deliverables. On pages B1 and B2 of the CAFR is the independent auditor's report. We had an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, which that's the best you can have. That's what you want. On page F1 and F2 is our report on internal controls and compliance. No findings or deficiencies noted. On page F3 and F4 is our management letter. Once again, no findings or deficiencies noted. And also the one finding we had from prior year was fully resolved and cleared. Then on page 5 is the independent accountant's report on compliance, and this really is just compliance with Florida statutes relating to investments, and again, no findings or issues noted. Just briefly, some quick high-level financial highlights. On B18 and B20 is your general fund, which is your chief operation fund for the city. Total assets were $15.1 million with total liabilities of $1.3, which resulted in a total fund balance of $13.8, which is a decrease of $0.9 million from prior year. Really, the key piece of this, though, is your unassigned fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures, which is still is a very strong 36.5%, which decreased slightly from prior year, but still a very good indicator of the financial health of the city. Next, on page B22 is your general fund budget, and this is your final budget compared to your actual. You'll see that you were $0.2 million. You exceeded budget $0.2 million in revenue, and you were under budget by $0.8 million in expenditures, which resulted in a positive $1 million net change in fund balance compared to budget and actual. On your major enterprise funds on pages B24 and B25, saw total assets for the sanitation fund of $5.7 million with total liabilities of $1 million, which resulted in a net position of $4.6 million. $4.7 million, which was just very consistent with last year. And then total operating revenue of $5 million compared to total operating expenses of $4.7 million, which resulted in operating income of $0.3 million, which is also pretty comparable with the prior year. And then your water and sewer fund net position ended in the fiscal year of $66 million, which was an increase of $1.5 million. And your operating income for the year was $2.9 million, which is also same as last year. So at this point, if there's any questions on our reports or the CAFR, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Mr. Well, I want to thank you for the presentation, and I'd like to, I'm very glad that you didn't find any deficiencies. And just wonder if you have any recommendations for us.
Well, yeah, there was, like I said, there was improvement from prior year, not having any deficiencies. Not really a recommendation, but in the current fiscal year 18, you do have a significant accounting standard that will have to be implemented, which I'm sure Ron is on top of, but your OPEB liability will have to be fully recorded in your financial statements in the current year, so that will be a change you'll see. So I just recommend getting in touch with your actuaries early and get those reports sooner than later.
Good, thank you. And I'd like to say a big bravo to Mr. Licouris and to all the staff, Ron, your staff, and if you please thank them for the quality of work that they do. Thank you so much. Any commission comment? Any public comments on this item? Here none, thank you very much. Are you ready, Mark?
Yeah, we're just trying to load the PowerPoint in, so thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Ready? Thank you. Item number 7 is another presentation, the CARE ATC Wellness Center Review. And the presentation will begin with Mrs. White and Carpert from Florida League of Cities. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Oh, I see. Okay, he's going to be my navigator this evening.
Okay.
So as I'm a familiar face, I've presented in the past. This is an update on the state of the clinic and how things are going with utilization. We're very excited to provide an update this evening and to show the tremendous growth and the advancements in the services as well. Next slide. This is just a review of what the agenda is. As you know, we started just prior to September 1st of 2014. So year one data does include the few weeks prior. So it's actually about a week, 2 weeks plus a year for year one. We are bringing all 4 years of data into this presentation. And just a reminder, it's a shared facility. 70% is Tarpon Springs usage and 30% is the city of Oldsmar. We will be reviewing not only participation in visits, but a review of labs and prescriptions as used by your employees for the services and patient satisfaction. And then we'll do a quick health assessment review, health plan observations, look at a Main Street cost comparison, which is a point that we cover each time we present, and then looking at a trend comparison as well. Next slide. So looking at utilization, next slide. You've actually had a significant increase from year one to year 4. Patients completed an office visit at CARE ATC 4.2 times per member per year, or in year 4. That is actually a really good statistic. In fact, your employees are utilizing the wellness center 15% more than our entire book of business. So when we look at the average and benchmark it against all of the patients utilizing CARE ATC services, the adoption rate of your employees has increased each year. There was an 11% increase from year 3 to year 4. And we feel that that's partially attributed to the fact that we were able to increase hours as we had committed to do. And we did that again this year. So guess I jumped ahead on this slide. Employee participation has increased by 11% since last year. It's 15% over our book of business. Spouse and dependent participation is right in line with our Carry TC book of business. And we know from our previous statistics, we launched in year 2 and year 3 and continuing into year 4 a campaign to promote, a home mailing campaign to promote Carry T services to the family members. So where the employees were aware and we had a presence here, maybe the family members were not as aware of the services. And so we did that. Getting into the homes, we saw an increase year over year in that as well. Next slide. So this is just a summary of what the patients think they're scheduling their appointment for. At the time that they contact Carry TC, either they go online, they use the mobile app, or they call Carry TC. 47% of the visits they consider a sick visit. 13% are preventive and 37% are chronic. Next slide. What this slide actually demonstrates is that even though the patients are scheduling a sick visit, because of the length of our visit and the time that we're able to spend with the patients, 73% of the visits actually resulted in some additional services beyond that earache or the sore throat. We were able to engage them in a conversation about their hypertension or their diabetes as well. So that's an exciting statistic that when the patient schedules their appointment, they may only be coming in for that sore throat, but when they leave, they're leaving with the medication that they need to control their hypertension as well. Next slide. This just shows our top drugs that were dispensed by drug category. 93% of all the visits, of all of the medications that we dispensed were actually in this top 10. What that tells us is that we're carrying the right medications at Carry TC to serve your patients. We match that to the utilization on the health plan and what the patients need the most, and we make sure that we're carrying the right medications. Next slide. Our top labs is also demonstrating this. Many of these lab values that we're actually pulling through are related to chronic diseases and not just acute services or sick visits. So it also confirms for us that patients are receiving a higher level of primary care from Carry TC. So we do have a patient survey process. I know we pause and review this each time. I think that it's also very valuable to know that every patient who comes to Carry TC, if we have their email address, the next morning they receive an email from Carry TC that just says simply, how likely are you to recommend Carry TC to a family member or a coworker? If they rank us with a lower rating, we do ask them a follow-up question, whether or not we can contact them for follow-up. Your patients have a very high level of patient satisfaction. In fact, it's 97%. So it's a very high rating, and the patients are highly satisfied with the services. The number one feedback that we receive on any type of improvements is to add more hours and days for appointments. This has been a consistent theme, and we've had a consistent goal to move toward that. Next slide. Which is what resulted in us hiring a new physician who had more availability from our previous provider. Dr. Ronnie Wong started seeing patients in December of 2017. He's very, very popular with the patients. In fact, even our medical assistant comments on how every patient coming out has a big smile on their face, and they're really providing positive feedback even at the time of their visit. As a result, we were able to increase to 21 hours per week. So we're now open all day on Wednesdays instead of just the shorter hours. That's an exciting enhancement for the patients to be able to offer additional hours. Each of the last 3 times we've been to council, we've been able to report additional hours. Next slide. Looking at the health assessment review, just wanted to point out, next slide, that your patients who are returning and having year-over-year comparison results of their personal health assessment, that's the annual health screening and their overall blood work, 58% of those repeat participants had an improvement in their BMI score. That means they lost weight over the last year. The diabetes counts had a 46% improvement. Blood pressure, 43 and 42%. As you know, there are 2 markers on that. The good cholesterol ratings actually improved by 38%, bad cholesterol by 39%, and triglycerides had a 54% improvement. So of the patients who are coming back and having their results year over year, we are seeing significant improvement in these patients. In fact, I'd like to point out, now that we're into year 5, one of the things that we can probably expect to see, and I'll remind you of this when I present next time, is that we may see a decrease in the number of office visits, and that's simply because now that these patients are engaged and they're actually treating, they're not being seen 3 or 4 times a year. They're controlled in their treatment plan, and the physician is now seeing them only twice per year, or perhaps even once per year. So if we see a decline in trends, it will be for good reasons. Next slide. Go ahead. Sorry. Next one. So looking at the United Healthcare Plan Review, this is the actual claims where your patients are going out outside of CARE ETC and seeking treatment. Maybe we have referred them for care. Maybe they have a primary care physician that they're treating with in Tarpon Springs. What we're able to see by just looking at the overall health trends in the plan is there was a reduction in total net per member per month for medical claims of 22.8%. A reduction in net paid per member per month of outpatient services of 29.4%. What that tells us is many of these patients, instead of going out to the plan and utilizing the health plan, going to an urgent care, they're calling CARE ETC first. They're using our services first. Primary care costs, a reduction of 12.3%, and a reduction in scripts per member per year of 5.2%. But as you saw by the statistics on the usage of the medications through the clinic, we've actually seen a significant increase in the use of medications through CARE ETC. So instead of going to the pharmacy, patients are establishing with our provider, and they're using our services instead. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron to talk a little bit about the last few slides here.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. Mr. Mayor, Chief, Mr. Manager, council members, Aaron Carper with the League of Cities. I'm going to go over the cost comparison, the financial performance. This slide should look pretty familiar to what we've discussed semi-annually. It does just show the increase in participation and utilization in this facility from year 1 to year 4. I'm really just going to focus, if I can, on the year 4 piece of it. And it just does, again, show what Wendy had been discussing with the, again, the high utilization and the net kind of deflection, I'll call it, of claims that never hit the United Healthcare medical program, approximately $340,000 this year. And I'm rounding up just to make the math easy, but $340,000 of claims that never made it to the United Healthcare plan. But at what cost? Next slide, please. And so again, this is a very similar slide to what we've discussed year in, year out, biannually, semi-annually, sorry, here. But from year 1 to year 4, the costs, the operational, administrative costs are the portion of the of this that does get funded back into the medical plan. So this past year, about $260,000 of net cost was sent back into the medical plan. But remember, we saved $340,000 in claims that never went there. So if you look at the 340 and 260, there's actually a net $80,000 of claims that are not counting against you on your United Healthcare claims because of this facility. Yes, there are $24,000 of facility costs that we can account for. $56,000 if you want to count that in there, but altogether, the cost of the facility, operational administratively versus what is actually not going to the facility is about $80,000. Next slide, please. And really, long term, what does this mean? And so, and that's okay. This next slide is a 6-year graph of what we've had over the past. And this, and I think you all have it in your packets, and there it is there. But year in, year out, this facility has assisted us in, Tarpon and Oldsmar for that matter, of staying below, in our renewals from year to year, below what other groups in the greater St. Pete, Tampa area are experiencing. They've been experiencing about 10% this past year, and both Tarpon and Oldsmar were in that 7% renewal range. So, the facility is doing what it needs to do to deflect the costs, from the medical program, and help the city save accordingly. So, open it up to any questions that you may have, questions or comments?
Well, thank you for the presentation, but before we go to questions, I'd like to ask Mr. Licouris. He provided us with a spreadsheet to compare the cost of Tarpon Springs compared to the Tampa Bay market trend, and I want to ask him to talk about that.
Yes, actually, Bob Cochin did that. As you know, besides his law enforcement, he's kind of a financial guru, so he handles the financial end of what. Can you talk about, I don't think it got in the packets because I don't see in there. Could you talk just a little bit about the figures you gave?
And Aaron backed me up on this, but when they talk about market trend, that's the average renewal rates that everyone's paying in the Tampa Bay area. It's about 10%. I did a little spreadsheet based on the numbers they provided, and our 6-year average was like less than 2%. So that is phenomenal. So what you're really looking at here is we are below trend. We are below the normal rates that people pay for health insurance in this area. So that's a very good thing.
Can you explain to me why, how our percentage is so much lower than Oldsmore, being that we're using the same center?
I would defer that to Aaron. I would think that probably a lot of variables to that.
Which is good for us, though.
Great for us,
I'm not
Mayor.
complaining.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, the number of employees, usage. I mean, healthcare is, very diverse. I mean, the issues, the claims, the situations that are happening in Oldsmar are, uniquely different than what we're having, and experiencing in Tarpon Springs. And so, when that actuary, that third-party actuary does do their evaluation, there are a number of different factors that, honestly, Mr. Mayor and council members, are way over my head with respect to, what's evaluated with respect to the renewals from year to year.
Well, on a personal level, I want to tell you that I had the chance to use the center a couple times, and the service was excellent. I appreciate that very much. That's probably the best benefit that we provide to our employees, and it's also very beneficial to the city because it reduces the absenteeism. Am I right, Mr. Licouris?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any
Thank you,
questions,
Mr. Mayor.
comments?
Well,
Mr. Stieber.
Thank you for your presentation. I could kick myself that I didn't start using the system 4 years ago, but started this year. So on a personal note, I've
Great.
seen the difference in the communication is great. And your hours, you've increased your hours, the phone app, the emails, the way you communicate with patients. The health assessment review is impressive because it's preventative, so that our employees will catch things earlier and hopefully stay healthier and be healthier all around. And it's not costing us any money. I mean, it's and as
Exactly. Yeah.
and as you said, our renewal rate was like 1.93 or something.
Over 6-year average.
Over 6-year
Right.
average. I mean, that's amazing. So, I think this is a great benefit to our employees. And the question, again, every year I think I raise is, are we going to increase the hours? Do you have any idea on that?
Well, we can tell by the utilization trends that we were able to justify the increase each year over the last 2.5 years. So we were excited to be able to offer that benefit. We do have our physician is very interested in increasing hours and working full time for Care ATC. It all depends on usage and patient adoption rates. It's very good to see an increase, and thank you for contributing to the 11% increase over the last 12 months. But what we have to watch is we have to make sure, so you'll notice that on the financial summary, the operational costs increase. So the operational costs increase because the cost of having staff there increases, as well as the additional services and prescriptions. So we want to make sure that we're not pacing it ahead of the actual usage and demand, because then it stops paying for itself. So just know that we are monitoring that very closely, and we're very excited every time we have an opportunity to add hours.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Panther?
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate you all coming each year to make this a presentation. I've only heard good things about this clinic. Again, I only went once a few years ago, but only bad thing I hear is we want more hours, which you've done this time, and I think we're starting to realize the gains. If you add up all the 4 years, we've about broke even with what we've invested and what we've saved over the entire 4-year span. So any savings in year five going forward, we start realizing, I think, the true savings of this program. We're just about 2,000 off if you add up all 4 years. So if the trend increases, especially when you saw year four, which is a positive $80,000 versus what it cost us and versus what we're saving, I don't know what the numbers are for Oldsmar, but I think if that continues, just reevaluating each year, moving the clinic to Tarpon Springs, if our usage can support our own clinic with you all, I think that would just be a huge plus to our employees. And I think if we brought it closer to here, I think you might find more usage. As I assume we have more employees that live north of here than south. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just assuming. I'll be off the board when that happens. That's a relief to some, I'm sure. But nonetheless, that'd be my recommendation upon renewal of your contract is to look, which I think you have like 3 or 4 years left, right? It's a year. It's year by year. Okay, well,
I believe so.
In a year and a half, I would really look at because if this is going to increase usage and savings in the way it is, look at if it is financially feasible to move the clinic to Tarpon Springs. Maybe it's not. Maybe we have to share with Oldsmar to make this cost savings work. But I appreciate what you all do. I appreciate you putting up with me for all this time of looking at the numbers and being critical of it. But I really think now that we're past the issue of it costing more than what it's saving. I think we're realizing those, like you said, those unforeseen benefits of they come in for a sore throat, but they get treatment for diabetes or for their high blood pressure or whatever. And also, I would hope the clinic also engages in, not just, medicating as we do a lot here, but, working to get people off their medication and improving it if they so want to. So I appreciate it. I just encourage at renewal to look at if it's at all possible to have the clinic in Tarpon Springs sole control. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Are there any public comments on this item? Hear none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now going to the consent agenda. Item number A is the 20 feet Trask and Dynog invoice 55,850. B is Johnson & Jackson invoice 2549, 2550, 2551, and 2576. Number 9 is the award file number 180119 CRS sodium hydroxide through the city of Boynton Beach, bid number 0252821-15JMA. And number 10 is the increase file number 180023 CRS fire equipment parts, supplies, and service to the Lake County contract, which is 170606G. Are there any items that you'd like to pull? Okay. Do we have any comments? Questions? None. Are there any public comments on this item? The chair will entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Banther?
Yes.
Mayor LaHousas?
Yes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the special consent agenda. The item number 11, cancellation of interenergy agreement between the city of Tarpon Springs and the school board of Pinellas County for construction of the community pool. Staff report.
Yes, Bob Robertson will be given the report. First of all, before we do, I want to thank Bob. I might have come to you 6 months ago with this, and probably at that time I might not have been able to say we've done everything possible, but Bob Robertson, in taking over managing this project, did everything possible to try to make this project work. But unfortunately, through his hard efforts and all the work that everybody's put into it, he'll give the presentation why the recommendation right now is that we're just not able to do this project and recommend the cancellation of the project with the school board. And Bob, you can explain why.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. I'm Bob Robertson, Project Administration Department Director, and here tonight to request your approval to cancel the existing agreement with the Pinellas County School Board for the construction of a community pool. And I'll briefly summarize the memo that I provided to you in your backup. About 2.5 years ago, in January 2016, the board approved an agreement with the school board for the purpose of designing, building, operating and maintaining the public lap pool facility to be located at the Tarpon Springs High School campus. Under the terms of the agreement, the school board agreed to provide the property and would manage the design and construction process. The city agreed to provide 100% of the funding for the design, up to $200,000, and for the construction, up to $1.5 million. At this time, the project design is finished and was completed within the $200,000 design budget. So we have a design that's done. And based on that design, a construction cost estimate was prepared. That was done using bid costs from vendors and contractors, so it was a hard cost. And that came up to $1,867,000, which of course exceeds the construction budget by $367,000. So when a project exceeds your budget, there are essentially three things you can do. You can either increase the budget, you can decrease the scope, or you can cancel the project. And so as per the original agreement, the school board isn't contributing any capital funds, as I said, nor are they able to contribute any additional funding. Efforts to locate outside funding through grants and local contributions were unsuccessful in the early stages of this project. So knowing our budget was fixed at $1.5 million, we looked at ways to reduce the scope. And Recreation Superintendent Craig Dolan and I worked closely with the school board. We took this thing, we turned it inside out, upside down. We worked with the design engineers and architects to make as many design adjustments and compromises as possible. We cut out amenities, we reduced the pool dimensions down, shrunk it down. We took out bleachers, sunshades, a kiddie pool that was planned. We even shifted almost $210,000 of construction work to in-house crews with the city to try to make this project affordable. So you put that back into the cost. That $210,000 isn't even included in that $1.86 million. So you put that back in, we're looking at a $2 million project. So for this reason, we recommend canceling the project with the option to revisit it later if circumstances warrant, because upon cancellation, the city will take possession of the design documents, the cost estimates, bids, drawings, etc. We'll archive those and use them again in the event we're able to resume the project. And with that, be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to say that I am very, very disappointed that the actual cost is over $2 million, $500,000 more than it was actually estimated back in 2015. Of course, I was not on the board at the time, so I don't know the specifics, but it's a big difference from the estimation to the actual cost. And even though with $2 million, you're still going to have the building of the pool would have been compromised. Smaller pool would have been no diving pool, no bleachers, no shade.
Correct.
And also you're going to be using the city employees to do a lot of the work, which means we have to take them away from other projects in order to do that. In addition to that, you say we found voids underground, which means you're going to have to hire a specialized contractor, and I don't know how much that is going to cost. Any idea how much that will be?
Yeah, that was about $25,000 of that 210 that
came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, again, I'd like to say that I am very disappointed that we have to cancel, or that we're going to cancel that, knowing that the Pinellas County School Board is planning to build a new auditorium and new buildings at the school, which is going to cost several $1 million. They could have used some of the money to build a pool for the swimming team and for the community. But I'd like to make a recommendation to my fellow commissioners that before we cancel these, to send a memorandum to from the mayor's office on behalf of the BOC to the Pinellas County School Board and request for them to reconsider to provide some funding in order to do this, to complete this project, and to give them 10 days to respond before we cancel that. We'll give him one more chance, Mr. Licouris.
Well, I would recommend that you vote to cancel it tonight, and obviously it's got to go to the school board. And you would send that letter when they consider it on their end, that if they're able to come up with the money, then, you know, we could take back. But I would say we need to make the vote tonight to cancel it. You want to send a letter to when they hear this item, because they'll have to do it for their board, that if they can come up with the money and think we could revisit, not cancel it, that'd be fine. But I think we need to vote to cancel it tonight, and then we could send that letter. That would be my recommendation.
Vice Mayor Panther?
Yes, thank you. I voted for this with my nose, holding my nose back in January, because I know the community wants a pool. I disagree with this on many levels, but I felt it was more personal, so I voted yes for it. I know that it was important to the outgoing mayor at the time, and I did see if it came to fruition, it would benefit the community. But it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with KRTC and having things under our control. We were essentially paying to build a pool on somebody else's property, and then they would dictate to us when we can use it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I still voted yes at the time because I felt that, you know, this, and it probably is our only option for a pool for this community. So I'm disappointed that the school board couldn't perform, because I feel like we went above and beyond, especially with Bob's time and staff time. And as I said, I don't know how many times we renewed this, once or twice. I said last time that I was done after that. So I'm definitely in favor of canceling this tonight. I'm glad we retained all the plans and drawings. I do hope one day we can have our own community pool. I don't know how we would do that, but I'm sure better minds than me in the future can figure that out. But I'm done with the idea of us using our penny money to build a pool on somebody else's property. I think it's the school board's property. If they want a pool, then they can build a pool. They have a lot larger tax base than we do here in Tarpon Springs, and I would like to see Tarpon Springs build a pool that is under our control, and then if they want to lease it from us, then we can decide that then. But I'm definitely for canceling this. I do want to thank you, Bob, because this would have died a year and a half ago without you, because I know you worked a lot more than what's just in this memo to keep this going. And so I hope the school board realizes their gratitude to you as well. And I certainly hope, again, that, you know, sometime in the future that Tarpon Springs can realize a pool. But I don't think this is the proper venue for it. Thank you.
Do you support that we should send a memorandum to Pinellas County School Board to reconsider that?
I don't see what it would do, Mayor. I mean, I think they've been pretty clear. I think as far as wanting the record to reflect that they couldn't perform, I think that's evident at every single step. I mean, I think anybody that looks at this objectively can see that we went above and beyond, not only paying for the pool, but going above and beyond, as you mentioned, Mayor, for providing city labor to complete the pool, and then, you know, Bob's time and everything else. So I'd rather just cancel it. I don't see what the letter would do. I know, you know, the school board's not ripe with cash. I don't see them coming forward with more money, and I think they would have by now if they were going to. I just don't see what that letter would do.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sieber.
Thank you. I have to agree with the Vice Mayor. I also want to thank you, Bob, for your time, and Craig. And I know it's very disappointing to Craig as well. He was looking forward to a pool for his swimmers, and we were also looking forward to a pool for our community, which has been something that our community has been asking for a long time. So it is very disappointing. And I do agree that we need to cancel it. I don't think it's going to make any difference. I think our decision to cancel tonight will give the school board an idea of what we're thinking and understand. And I also hope that in the future that we have an opportunity to do it on our own property with our own control. And now that we have paid already for the $200,000 for the design, which belongs to us, at least we're started in some way towards maybe hopefully in the future having our own pool, because I just feel that that's something our community really needs. And I just heard the other day that I think in this county, deaths have gone up for young children. So it's important that our young children learn to swim, that our swim team have a pool, that our community has a pool to use. So, I'm disappointed, but it would have not been the pool that we wanted for our swim and dive team anyway.
Right.
So we couldn't have cut back anymore. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Carr?
Thanks. I'm not going to repeat everything else that everyone's said already. Speaking last really takes the words from basically what I'm going to say. So thank you to the rest of the board. Thanks, Bob, for bringing this back in front of us and all your hard work, dedication to the city of Tarpon Springs. So really, you do go above and beyond a lot of times with these projects. And thank you so much for your detail and diligence to turn over every rock and uncover everything to make sure that we've crossed all avenues. So I'm in support with sending a cancellation letter. I think this would also give the school board indication of what the city is feeling with the additional cost. I'm not against sending an additional letter with it, but I think I don't find it being very prudent to spend the amount of money. I could echo what Commissioner or Vice Mayor Banther said about putting on the school board property. I do have some reservations about that as well, too. So, thanks.
Okay, we're now going to the public comments on this item. Are there any public comments on this item? We hear none. I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. And roll call.
Just for clarity of the record, we're making a motion to approve the cancellation of the project, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Fair enough. Thank
And roll
Commissioner,
call.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Banther?
Yes.
Mayor Alahouzes?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to the ordinance and resolutions. Item number 12 is the ordinance 2018-11, application 18-03, Paris annexation. This is the first reading, and the city attorney will read the ordinance.
Ordinance 2018-11, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, annexing Lot 9 and Lot 10, Block A, Highland Grove Manor subdivision, according to map or plat thereof, recorded in Plat Book 45, page 8 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and consisting of 0.37 acres, more or less, of real property, located on Giroux Boulevard in Section 1, Township 27 South, Range 15 East, providing for findings and providing an effective date. First reading of ordinance 2018-11 by title only. Second reading to be held on May 8, 2018. It was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title with a map on March 30, 2018.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Heather Earler, Planning and Zoning Director, staff for this application. This is an application that's coming to us. Essentially, the property owner is having some issues with their existing well, and they need to connect into the city utilities. Because they are contiguous to other properties that are already within the city, your ordinances require them to do a voluntary annexation. So that's why you're seeing this tonight. And essentially what's occurring here is the property has the same land use both within the county and the city, but the zoning is a little bit different. We don't have an R4 district, which is what the county current zoning district is. So we're bringing it into our closest zoning category, which is the R70 category. So that's why you're seeing those land use categories there. But the land use itself is the same. It's just the zoning that is somewhat different. The property, again, is contiguous to other surrounding properties, both on the north and the east side, and so as such, it is not an enclave. It's consistent with voluntary annexation requirements and meets all of the criteria for the public facilities. We can provide water, sewer, and it's within our service area and our treatment facility area. With that, the owner has consented to the application and has met the criteria. It's consistent with our comprehensive plan and planned intensities and densities in that area. The change in the land use, there's no change in the intensity between the Pinellas County designations and our designations. They're very similar. We just don't have an R4 category. We have an R70 category. The technical review team reviewed this application on January 25th, 2018, and had no concerns. It was advertised in the paper. and the property was posted. Staff recommends approval of the requested annexation and the rezoning from R4, Pinellas County Zoning District, to R70, City of Tarpon Springs Zoning District. The Planning and Zoning Board heard this application on April 16, 2018, and voted unanimously to recommend approval of ordinance 2018-11. I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any public comments or questions? None? Are there any public comments? No? Are you the applicant? Do you want to say something about this? If you do, please come to the podium. And please state your name and your address for the record.
I'm Nancy Parrish. I'm a co-owner of 320 Giroux Boulevard with my brother. My parents built the house in 1957. It's been in the family since then. My mother passed away 7 years ago. My husband and I moved in. Within the last couple of years, the water has, we've always had the well and good water. And then within the last few years, the water has gotten so extremely salty that you can't even begin to drink it. So we've, been using bottled water. So we're just hoping we'd be able to hook into city water. We've heard very good things about it. So we're about a quarter of a mile from the reverse osmosis plant. So fingers crossed, you'll say yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments on this item? Hear none? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Banther?
Yes.
Mayor LaHousas?
Yes, welcome to Tarpon. You always been in Tarpon anyway. Thank you. Okay, we are now going to the item number 13, which is resolution 2018-07, the application 14-44, the ad valorem tax exemption for 160 Reed Street, and the city attorney will read the resolution.
Yeah, they're going to present items 13 and 14 together.
I'd like to, because they're interlinked and it's one packet that's going to go to the county. So we'd like to do that if we could.
At the mayor's pleasure, I'll read both resolutions. Before Heather makes her presentation, we'll need separate motions and votes for each.
Yes, sir.
Resolution number 2018-07, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving application number 14-44 for ad valorem tax exemption on qualifying improvements totaling $640,224 for the period of 10 years for real property located at 160 Reed Street, providing for findings, providing for conditions, recommending that the Pinellas County Board of Commissioners approve an exemption to the county ad valorem tax, approving execution of a historic preservation property tax exemption covenant, and providing an effective date. Resolution 2018-07 by title only. Resolution 2018-08, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving application number 16-31 for ad valorem tax exemption on qualifying improvements totaling $134,894 for the period of 10 years for real property located at 312 East Tarpon Ave, providing for findings, providing for conditions, recommending that the Pinellas County Board of Commissioners approve an exemption to the county ad valorem tax, approving execution of a historic preservation and property tax exemption covenant, and providing an effective date. It's Resolution 2018-08 by title only.
Okay. This is the first go-round for these types of applications. You actually established in 2010 this process by which folks in the Historic Preservation District can come before you and ask for a reduction in their ad valorem taxes based on improvements that they make to contributing historic resources. It's an incentive program to get people to reinvest into the historic homes and the historic businesses that we have here in Tarpon Springs. We've put together a cover memo that kind of talks a little bit about the history of the project, of that whole adoption process and how that process came to be. And then we've also provided some additional information in exactly what the process entails. The applicant becomes before our TRC board or the HEB board with a pre-construction documentation that basically asks, showing what their potential improvements are going to be. They'll get their certificate of approval from the Heritage Preservation Board. Once they have actually receive that. They go through the building permit process. Once they've received the building permit, they then start their construction. They then will document everything throughout their construction process, taking pictures and those types of things on the improvements and things that they're seeing as they get into those historic homes and those historic businesses. And then they then return that information to us with their invoices. We then go process that information and review it against their application to ensure that it meets the same criteria, that they haven't exceeded the allowances in the code. Now, at least one of these applications actually came before this body and actually asked for the cap that is in the legislation to be removed, which this board agreed to do. So that application had the cap removed on it, but the other application did not. And so that's why you're seeing a large difference in the improvements. Also, the projects are very different in scale and scope. The Reed Street project basically was a complete demo and rebuilding of that historic building. And the one on Tarpon Ave is a little bit different. It was basically an improvement to an existing building, providing for the tap room for St. Somewhere's Brewery. With that, essentially what this is this is just their request basically coming through asking for an exemption for their taxes, and it's the incremental change in the ad valorem tax based on their improvements. It's not the value of the land, it's only based on the improvements. So what they actually improve on the property, that tax improvement, that's what they'll actually get their tax exemption on, not on the full taxes. So this is not for 10 years, they're not going to pay any taxes. This is for 10 years, they're not going to pay any taxes on that incremental change between where the tax base was when the property was first brought forward and where it is now today at the time that they're coming forward with their tax, with basically their permits finished and their projects completed, where the taxable value will actually be established by the property appraiser. What this process will do is once you have seen it and hopefully that you agree to this process, it will then go to the county. The county will evaluate it through their process. And if they agree, they will then send it on to the property appraiser, and they will get basically a tax exemption for both the city's portion of the taxes and also the county portion of the taxes. That's all based on the values that are established by the property appraiser. We don't have those values today because that's done by the property appraiser after we agree as a city and as a county to actually provide for that ad valorem tax exemption. So with that, I've provided an awful lot of data here. I don't want to go over a whole lot of stuff. I'd rather have you guys ask me questions on what you really are interested in understanding here with these two projects.
Well, thank you, Heather. The explanation of the backup information was very, very clear to me, and thank you for
Well, that you can thank our brand new city planner, because our brand new city planner, who I've brought with us tonight, Michelle Wagner, did all of the research on these two projects. She did a fabulous job and has provided all that data for you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. I think this is a good thing. It provides incentives for people to preserve our historic buildings, so I think it's a good thing to do that. Any commission comment? Commissioner Carr. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Heather, it says an eligible historic property in the city of Tarpon Springs is defined as real property, that is, and it lists about 6 characters or 6 requirements. And it says a property listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Is that the historic district or is that actually the building itself?
It could be either. So like if it was this building is not in the historic district, but is individually listed. If we're talking about like say City Hall,
Okay.
It's a little different. In this case, both of these structures are actually in the district. They're not individually listed, but they're listed within the district.
Okay.
They're contributing within the district.
All right. What happens if the property owner were to sell their property? Does it go along with the sale?
That's why in your packet you see the restrictive covenant. That has to be recorded on the property, provided we all agree it will get recorded onto the property. It's one of the requirements in your resolution, your conditions of this approval. Essentially, what happens is that will, regardless of whether there's a property transfer or not, over that 10 years, it will stay with the property. That tax exemption, it doesn't go with the individual. So the individual, if they move or they sell the property, the tax exemption stays with that property. So
Okay.
the new property owner would realize that same exemption.
So, for instance, like if someone were to add a deck to an older historic home or a new roof, that potentially could cause the taxes to go up, right?
Yeah, no, so if they're within this and they do future improvements, any future improvements aren't included in that exemption. It's only the improvements that were included as part of this application process. So the things that were actually included in their CAs, their current CAs that they have on those projects, anything new that they would add pretty much needs a new certificate of approval from the Heritage Preservation Board. They could then go through this process again, but the likelihood that they're going to get 2 exemptions is unlikely.
Okay. Just a note to the city manager. I know every tax dollar is precious to the city of Tarpon Springs, but we have a lot of applications that go to through the Historic Preservation Board, and these are the first 2 that I've seen in the past year for property tax exemptions. So I'm not sure how we could work with the planning team or work with Karen to make sure that the residents and business owners know that this is available as another mechanism to save them money, especially for the businesses. I mean, every dime when you're starting a new business, you're renovating these buildings. I know a lot of buildings in downtown have taken advantage of the grants, but there's also some potential opportunities for this also.
We can do that, yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Yes, it is a great incentive. I just wish we had known about it before we demolished and restored 2 buildings on Safford. It's great that you guys caught this and knew about it because, as you said, I think a lot of business owners or residents don't know that this option exists or this incentive exists, and it is a good incentive. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor Panther?
Yes, thank you. I want to thank both these individuals. They have done great things for Tarpon Springs. Andy, I didn't think you could do that project. I'm shocked every time I drive by how great it looks. The one thing I find funny is that these 2 are on the same application, and Andy spends so much time at St. Somewhere, which is 312. He should be paying their property tax.
They're even sitting
So
together.
I just find it very funny they're on the same application. Exactly. But regardless, thank you both very much. You're an example of what we need to have more happen in the historic district. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on this item? Andy?
Andreas Beckel, 160 Reed Street. Proud Sponger. I just wanted to thank the city staff, and particularly Michelle, but predecessors as well, for getting this engaged. This has been a long, drawn-out process for me, and I'm also a business owner and spend some 40 to 60 hours a week doing that. It is a nice incentive to realize this at the end of a journey like this. Well, the near end of a journey. This isn't quite done yet, are we? But I encourage this to be promoted and to get more visibility on it. I think it adds a lot of value to the community to save these buildings, even if it is stressful and expensive. And we're taking personal risk in undertaking these operations, and it's nice to have a little bit of a break on the backside. So thanks to the city of Tarpon Springs and the staff and everyone who's been involved all along the way.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks.
Any other public comments?
Oh, oops. St. Somewhere's awesome.
I will entertain a motion for item number 13, which is the resolution 2018-07.
Motion to approve.
And roll call.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Siebert?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Banther?
Yes.
Mayor Alahouzes?
Yes, thank you. Now I need a motion for the resolution 2018-08.
Motion to approve.
And roll call.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Siebert?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Banther?
Yes.
Mayor Alahouzes?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We have an addendum to the regular session, and that's item number 1, to approve the revised meeting dates for June and July. Mr. Licouris.
Yes, to try to accommodate for vacations and the ability to try to have a full board, and recognizing that the 4th of July holiday would be on a Wednesday after a meeting, my suggestion and recommendation is to move the June and July meetings to the 2nd and 4th Tuesday. That would help with the June 5th meeting, which would only have 3 members there otherwise, and then it would, again, help with 2 meetings back to back within a week of 4th of July, which could be a problem for some people going. So if we could do that, we've got plenty enough time to advertise. Heather has to know early enough so we can advertise and not have any re-advertising problems. So if it's good with everybody tonight, then, I encourage you to approve this.
Okay, thank you. Are there any commission comments on this item?
Just one real quick. I was trying to take a small break in June. Or change now. No, I can't. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any public comments on this item? I need a motion
Motion approved.
Second.
and roll call, please.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Banther?
Yes.
Mayor Alahouzes?
Yes. Well, that concludes the regular session meeting. It's adjourned at 7:42 p.m. And we are now going to the CRA meeting. I now call to order the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, March 20th at 7:43 p.m. And roll call.
Chair Alahouzes?
Here?
Vice Chair Banther?
Here.
Commissioner Sieber,
Here.
Commissioner Kikta is absent and excused. Commissioner Carr?
Here.
Okay. We have one item on the agenda, which is the procedure for review of proposal and award RFP number 180060 PCM redevelopment of property located at 144 East Tarpon Avenue. And our city attorney will explain to us the procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of, the upcoming May 9th meeting, for your consideration as a CRA of the requests for responses to the request for proposals on 144 East Tarpon, and in light of the fact that this was not a procedure we had done before, the city manager and I thought it would be a good idea to have a brief meeting tonight in order to facilitate the smooth operation of that meeting on the 9th. I've written you a very short memo, I hope, in order to outline the procedures that I think are best to conduct that meeting. Unlike the executive session statute, when we talk about litigation expenditures and strategy, there is not a prescribed procedure for this type of meeting in the relevant statute. I have outlined for you some of the confidentiality exemptions and the public meeting exemptions that are at play here. And so the relevant portions are that the presentations and question and answers by the responsive bidders can be done out of the sunshine, and we have arranged for that on the May 9th meeting. Also, the bid documents will not be public record until such time as a notice to award is issued or 30 days have elapsed. Now, 30 days will not have elapsed by the time of the May 9th meeting. Those bids were submitted and opened on April 17th. Those documents will become public at such time as Mr. Jackus issues the notice of intent to award, which will be sometime in advance of that May 9th meeting. Relative to the conduct of the meeting, again, at your approval, the proposers will each be given 20 minutes for the presentation, followed by your questions and their answers. Again, in fairness, those 20 minutes need to be strictly observed in time so that no one presenter is given an advantage over another. The presentations will be made in the order that the presentations were received. There are 3 entities to present, and we'll take them in that order. Once the presentations and questions and answers are complete, the closed portion of the meeting will be over. Just like an executive session, we'll adjourn back here to the auditorium. For the regular session and for your deliberations. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the process.
We have the packages tonight?
I do have them, if everyone could stop by my office on the way out.
Okay.
They were just heavy to bring in, and you have to sign them.
Individually.
Sure.
And again, I would caution you, those are confidential. You can't discuss them, of course, with each other, and you also may not disseminate them to others.
Vice Mayor, you have a comment or question?
Yes. Is this okay? Can he clarify now, Mark, about
Yeah.
my situation?
You want to, about Commissioner Banther and his
Because I
ability?
believe it was CKRH. I had a relation, that sounds really bad. I had well, that applicant is an employee of one of my tenants. And the last time I was recused, and the city manager said you had done further research and saw that was not necessary, if I'm not correct.
That is correct. I have done additional legal research and determined that in that factual circumstance, you are not required to recuse yourself and can vote at that May 9th meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Are there any public comments on this item or questions? Hear none?
I've got one other question just for clarification. So we go up in the room, it's just they're going to be the board, procurement team, and the a applicant at a time. It's not like open.
Yeah, the other two
city.
applicants, so the other two proposers will be let out of the room, so they're not going to be hearing each other's presentations.
And then we'll come back here to have discussion. Is there public comment at that time?
Yeah, that portion of the meeting is public, and by that time, the bid documents will have been made public because Mr. Jackus will need to issue the notice of intent to award.
Okay. So when we leave the meeting, are we deciding on did we decide what we're awarding already, or is it when we get down here?
Yeah, you can't, you may not deliberate in the meeting upstairs. Okay. That the only portion that's closed are for the presentations and the question and answer session. Every other bit of that, of your consideration, your deliberation needs to be done in public.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? We already asked for public comments. We hear none. Do we have to vote for that?
No.
It's just a quick.
No, we just thought it would be helpful because we've not done this before in this context. It might be helpful to just run that procedure by you and make sure we're all on the same page moving into that meeting.
Yeah, we want enough time because I know there may be some people in the audience as it was last time, and they're perfectly welcome to come at 6:30 and stay till about 8 or whenever if you're figuring the performances.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Mark. The only other suggestion I might make for us and for the city clerk is to, rather than when we have meetings back to back, for example, this meeting, we'll say immediately following, Board of Commissioners meeting. The notice procedure here, I would suggest to you, would be better executed by doing a time certain for the CRA meeting, because you have 20 minutes for the three presenters, but the question and answers will take an indeterminate amount of time. It might be very short, it might be very long, depending upon the inquiries that you folks have. And I think it would be most fair to those folks who wish to come and comment and discuss this item to know what time to be here, so they don't sit here waiting for us. And so there might be a break between the session, the closed session, and the CRA meeting.
Yeah.
We allow 20 minutes for the applicant to do their presentation. Do you think we should be given like 10 minutes for us to ask questions? That way we know what time to tell the people to be here, because we're not going to know what time to tell the.
Right. I think you can do that, and I don't think from a due process requirement, which was what I'm looking at when we look at the 20-minute time limit, you wouldn't be required to. I think it's probably good practice to perhaps limit the question and answer session to, for example, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying
what I had thought was that we would tell the people that meeting back down would start no earlier than 8, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, but it would start no earlier than 8. Say you got over it at 7:45. So 8 would be if the questions went a little longer, and they were down here 8:15 or so. It wouldn't hurt if we said the meeting was going to be opened up. Because I don't know if there's any way, even when you say 10 minutes questions, if there are proposals they really need to get into, I don't know how you're going to I don't know how you're going to stop their due. I don't know how you stop them upstairs and make this important decision. So we'll announce it'll start no earlier than 8, or to announce to the people here when we open the meeting at 6:30, they're going upstairs and the meeting will not start before 8 o'clock or sometime after.
Yeah, and like I said, for purposes of notice, and again, this is not prescribed by statute. I think a better practice, and I'd be more comfortable with this, determining a time certain, even if there is a gap, and even a significant gap between the close of the closed session and the open of the public session. Again, so we don't leave people sitting around. They know what time to come, and they can't say, well, they put on there whenever that meeting ends, but we didn't know when that was going to be, so we're hanging around. And to your point, I think the question and answer session could be time limited, certainly. Yeah. Now, understand that's going to limit to some degree the exchange that you folks are able to have with those proposers. I have no preference legally that way. It's really your discretion. I do have a preference and a strong one about the time given to each presenter to present.
Truthfully, I don't like to restrict anyone for asking questions because this is a very, very important decision to make, but just so that people don't have to wait, that's all.
Sure.
You think 8 o'clock is a good time to?
Well, if somebody down there is staying in the crowd, if you're past 8 or something, well.
I mean, could we convene at 6 that night rather than 6:30 to leave 2 hours and then notice the open session for 8? Again, even if there's a gap in between them, that's.
We can do that.
Just depends about work. Some people.
Yeah, I know.
Some people get here for work wise.
I can make that work.
You make it work?
Yeah. I can
All right. Well, if we do that, then we do that at 6, then convene at 8 we'd say 8, because that gives plenty of time for extra time for questions or a little break in between coming downstairs. So
yeah, I feel it's important to have additional time for questions.
Yeah.
We might only have 5 minutes of questions, but it could go 20 minutes of questions. And this is an important discussion that we're having about this.
that sounds good.
We'll do that.
That's how we'll do.
Everybody agrees with that?
One more question. Yes, I agree. And not to berate my first point, but and I'm fine with what you stated, Jay. But for my benefit, just for my prediction of things to come, could you, if someone was to drill down more on why is Vice Mayor Banther voting now and he wasn't earlier, besides what you said at the beginning, which is fine with me and this board, but something more specific, we could give that person should they, start prying.
Yeah, absolutely.
We plan to put something in writing of that effect before.
Yeah, this is serious, and I just want to make sure we're covering our bases.
Yeah, there's a statute and some clarifying opinions.
Okay.
Cover it.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, that concludes the CRA meeting, and it's adjourned at 7:53 p.m. And we go to staff comments. Police Chief?
No comments, Mayor. Thank you.
City Attorney?
No comments.
City Manager?
A document I put on the dice, and remember, we'll get it for Commissioner Slattery and stuff, is our budget timetable. This is our tentative budget timetable. Note on the second page, and you can't see it too well with the copies that came out. You'll see there's a little gray area. There's four dates that you have to be concerned about that we need to make sure that everybody can make. There's not a lot of leeway, especially in the last two, because those are kind of set by statute. But tentatively, the last ones and the most important ones are two public hearings on the budget, which is in this schedule set September 5th, a Wednesday, and then Tuesday before the regular meeting. This is the way we've done it the last couple of years' work. Usually everything comes out in the first public budget hearing, so that's why we do it a separate night. Usually there's not many issues that come with the second one. So we do it that way. That one, there's not much leeway in moving days, but we can move it a day or two, because there's a statutory requirement there. The one that can be adjusted some is the budget workshop. The last 2 or 3 years, we've only needed one, but we always schedule a second one just in case. So those two dates tentatively, and like I say, you see a little gray, are the 26th of July and the 2nd of August, which are both Thursdays. If there are problems with those, again, those and even a slight adjustment can be the 2 September ones. The September ones are a little harder. Make sure you check your schedules, think your vacations, look them out. And within the next week or so, if you see any problem with those four, those are the only four you have to, the rest of them aren't dates you're involved in. But if there's any problems with those four, try to get with me so I can get with Ron and we can try to adjust it so everybody can make it. But those are the four we'll need if there's a problem with those for budget time.
Labor Day weekend is the 3rd, so I'm not sure if that would be a conflict with the one on the 5th at all with anyone's schedules. I know it's a popular travel time, just to point out. I don't have any plans as of right now, but just to...
Yeah, and that's one that could be possibly adjusted to a Thursday instead of a Wednesday if there's one. We've just usually done them on a Wednesday, but it can also be a Thursday. So that's, again, one to look at and let us know. And again, we got time to adjust those and change it. This is mainly for you. So and that's it.
I'm available, so it don't matter. Madam City Clerk.
I just want to remind the commission again, if they could stop by my office one quick second to pick up their bid packet and sign out for it.
Okay. Thank you. Vice Mayor Penn.
Yes, thank you.
You recovered?
Yes, I'm recovered. I am. I'm still tired, but that's not jet lag. That's just getting back into the routine. I look forward to the slideshow. I think we edited out all the embarrassing photos. The one of me sleeping on the bus, especially that my wife took. I dealt with her.
That's a good one.
So no, it's not a good one. So anyway, I won't belabor this, but I want to thank the PD. We've just twice the past week we've had vagrant issues on our properties, on off of Tarpon Avenue, and it's just getting worse. And I know we're busy right now we have the Forbes property and budgets though coming up. But before I'm off this board, I am going to work with the city manager and the chief to find a way to do something to address this issue, because it's a safety issue. These are not homeless people. These are vagrants that are choosing a lifestyle, whether it's for whatever reason. But I spend part of my day now looking after the same person that's strategically moving their stuff either on my property or on the edge of my property and the vacant land between me. And I know I'm not the only business owner that has this issue. So the PD did a great job of responding quickly. When they did have a tent city behind one of my buildings, they evicted them very quickly. And so, but the PD can only do so much what they can do by law. So I think this is an issue that we have to work with. I know it's unpopular to talk about it sometimes, but as the outgoing member of the board, I have no problem though bringing this up, because I feel strongly that it needs to be addressed. So I'll wait till we get through some of this important business, and then I'll work with the city manager and chief coach on what we can bring back. So thank you.
Commissioner Sieber.
Thank you. We had Keep Pinellas Beautiful this past Saturday, and people were out collecting garbage at Sunset Beach and the community garden. And I heard from the community garden folks, I was actually there for a little while, that they had 54 volunteers collected 64 bags, 417.5 pounds of garbage downtown. So I want to just thank them and congratulate them for their efforts. I also want to mention we had a business owner pass away this past week on the docks, Joey's Boutique. She was a business owner for well over 20 years, and I just want to give my condolences to Ed, her husband, Joey's Boutique and the Sponge Exchange. Yes. So I just wanted to give my condolences to her husband and family. And we have Rock the Ducks this weekend, Saturday, on the Sponge Docks. So hopefully y'all will come out and support Rock the Ducks. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. Judy sent out an email this past week about Spring Boulevard being shut down for a time period of May 7th through May 25th due to a drainage pipe being replaced. North Spring Boulevard. I'm sorry, not Riverside. Just wanted to bring this to your attention. I'm not taking full credit of this because I know that the staff has also reached out to the county about this, but the county agreed. They were planning on repaving the road. They were trying to coincide it with a bridge replacement, but with the amount of voices going to down county and complaints about how rough the road is and what the sidewalks look like, they've recently repaired the sidewalks along that stretch of road, and they're going to be repaving this a year sooner than what they wanted to. I just want to encourage other board members how important it is to keep communication open with our elected county commissioners and the administrator's office on the areas of roads the many miles of roads that the county has that goes through Tarpon Springs. I was on a phone call with one of the project managers for the county for about an hour a couple Fridays ago, talking about the areas along Gulf Road, Mears, Florida Avenue, around the bayous that needed areas of improvement for sidewalks, continuation, repair to sidewalks, and road issues as well. So I think this is encouraging that the county is doing this, and just to keep our voices loud and clear amongst them. And Mark, I know we also discussed at one point trying to get a meeting along with the county commissioners with one of our meetings. I know we're shooting for like last October, but for whatever reason that didn't come to fruition. Is there something in the works still where we could have I don't know if it'd be a joint meeting or invite the commissioners to one of our meetings to have an update or a discussion on some of the properties that they have within Tarpon Springs?
Mm-hmm. I can get back with the county.
We had a meeting up here at I don't know if it was a meeting. I guess it was a meeting at the college, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. There's two I know that couldn't get here if they tried. but I think we can get the majority of them. I know Commissioner Long, Commissioner Eggers, would be here for sure, and the others we could just work on.
Yeah, I can talk with the county administrator. 'Cause I know the schedule for November through about March was just hectic on meetings and stuff, so.
Yeah, and just to give an update about the Penny, and I know they've got some plans along Anclote Boulevard too for an update here in the next year with new sidewalks and the road being completely redone. Again, just so we understand as a city what their plans are and how they're using Penny money. Other areas for potentially getting bed tax in the Tarpon Springs too. That would be another area I would like to encourage. I don't know if the county commission is in part of that or if that's the tourism board. But those are things that's just encouraging each other to keep doing this.
It's good to have that. We're having an excellent relationship with Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah.
He's always available and always have lunch with him. So
I agree.
He's easy to work with. Any other comments?
No. Thank you.
Well, I have some announcements to make. May 3rd, we have the Sunset Beach concert. Starts at 7 p.m. May 4th, we have the First Friday, the very popular event that begins at 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Tarpon Avenue. Saturday, May 5th, we have the Eagle Fest at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Craig Park. And Saturday, May 5th, we have the Cinco de Mayo event from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Athens Street. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, well, that concludes the meeting tonight, and the time is 8:03 p.m.
Very good.
And good night, everyone.
Like that. Very good. 8 o'clock was my prediction.
You were right on.